Short topics, talking heads. Functional grammar. There are a number of traditions that developed in Europe in particular, starting in the mid-1920s or even earlier, that have been called functional grammar or functional linguistics. An important tradition was the Prague school of linguistics. Here we will focus on Michael Halliday's functional grammar. So what does functional grammar mean in terms of Halliday's notion of functional grammar? Well, first of all, most generally, it's the conception of the grammar as a resource, not as an inventory of rules or structures, but a resource. What kind of resource? It's a resource for constructing meanings as wordings. So the grammar plays a central role in making meaning through its wording potential. What does that wording potential include? Well, it includes grammatical structure. It includes grammatical items, sometimes called function words, and vocabulary, lexical items, sometimes called content words. But beyond the recognition that the role of a grammar language is to serve as a resource for making meaning, is also his discovery in the first half of the 60s that grammars of different languages are organized functionally, meaning in their organization they have evolved a certain pattern of organization. And to be clear about the nature of function here, he introduced the term metafunction. So we say that the grammar of English, of Nahuatl, of Inuit, of Cantonese, of Vietnamese, any of the languages that are still spoken around the world that we're aware of, the grammar is metafunctionally organized. A typical pattern is, if you start with the sort of highest ranking unit of the grammar, the clause is a construct involving three metafunctions, three strands of meaning. We could take them in any order, but let's say the clause is 1, a representation of experience, or more specifically, it's a construal of a quantum of change in our experience of the flow of events. That means that the clause is organized as a process, participants directly involved in the process, and indirectly involved participant or attendant circumstances. That's the clause as a figure in the representation of experience. Secondly, the clause is at the same time what we might call the quantum of interaction or quantum of dialogue. It's a contribution to the development of dialogue through series of exchange of meaning between speaker and listener. Here, the clause is a move. It may be used to initiate an exchange, to respond to an exchange, to give information, to demand information, to give goods and services, or to demand goods and services. And this is in fact what lies behind the traditional notion of speech function. Giving information, statement, demanding information, question, offering goods and services, offer, and demanding goods and services, command. Now these are infinitely elaborated in different languages. In the grammar, they are manifested as the grammar of mood, and the grammar of mood may, and does in many languages, by a further step, involve pitch contours in phonology. So contours of tone movements, falling, rising, or different combinations. So that's the clause as a move in its interpersonal guise. Finally, these two, the clause as a figure, experiential view of the clause as a move, interpersonal view of the clause, are brought together by the textual metafunction, which in a sense transform the experiential meanings and interpersonal meanings, or rather makes them shareable as a flow of information. This is close as a quantum of information in the construction of text as an extended flow of information. And this operates then by guiding, giving the speaker the resources to guide his or her listeners in how they process the clause as a message, what to pay attention to as particularly prominent, what to sort of leave behind because it's continuous, what to pay particular attention to because it's contrastive or because it's new, how to set up an orientation for the whole clause, how to contextualize it in relation to what came before, and so on and so forth. So this is the clause as a message. In other words, the clause functions as a figure in the construal experience. That's the experiential clause grammar. As a move in the interaction, in dialogue between speaker and listener, adopting different speech roles. This is the interpersonal clause grammar. The clause as a move with selections in mood types. And finally, as I said, transforming, or rather making accessible these experiential interpersonal meanings as flow of discourse, or rather a quantum of flow of discourse or information in its context. In addition, the grammars of all languages also have one more functional strand, the logical strand. Prototypically, the logical strand has evolved to chain or string clauses together, so that sequences of clauses form chains. And it does so prominently by operating with a small number of logical semantic types: restatement, exemplification, addition, alternation, but also cause, reason, condition, temporal sequence, manner, and, interestingly, in many languages, a special relationship of projecting somebody's thoughts or words. You do this by reporting or quoting what somebody said. Again, that would be a topic for further illustration, how clause complexes construe sequences in text. Now, the experiential and the logical work together particularly intimately, and within one language or across languages there may be particular variation in how experience is construed experientially or logically, and this is one reason why it makes sense to bring them together under the heading of the ideational metafunction. So finally then we have the ideational metafunction with two modes of construing experience, experiential and logical, the interpersonal metafunction, and finally the textual metafunction. So that's grammar in its multifunctional guise, and the clause as a key representation of this. But this metafunctional organization runs through not only clauses, but also other units in different ways in languages. Groups, phrases, if a language operates with clauses, words, and in languages that do a fair amount with word grammar, also morphemes. So that's a short topic introduction through a talking head.